Before you scroll, come a little closer. If your body's been trying to tell you something and you've been ignoring it, I need you to hear me, because I did the same thing and I almost paid for it with the rest of my life. My name is Martha Louise Carter. I was born in Arkansas back when the roads were still dirt and folks knew their neighbors by name. Life was simpler back then, but it wasn't always easier. I'm 102 years old now, and I've lived long enough to see something happen over and over again. People don't just fall apart all at once. It doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens slowly, quietly, in ways you barely notice at first. It's in the little things you ignore, the tiredness you brush off, the discomfort you learn to live with, the habits you keep repeating, even when your body is asking you to stop. At 92, I thought I was doing just fine. I could still walk around the house, still cook my meals, still take care of myself. From the outside, I looked all right. But deep down, I wasn't. I was tired all the time. Not the kind of tired that a nap fixes, but the kind that sits in your bones. My legs felt heavy, like I was dragging them instead of walking. My sleep. Oh Lord, my sleep was broken into pieces.
I'd wake up over and over again at night.
I'd wake up over and over again at night, sometimes just staring into the dark, wondering why I couldn't rest. And every morning, I woke up feeling like I never slept at all. But you know what I told myself? I said, Martha, you're getting old. This is just how it is. And that right there, that's the lie that keeps people stuck. Now don't get me wrong, age is real. Your body does change. You don't move the same way you did at 20, and that's all right. But suffering in silence, accepting everything as just age, that's a choice. And I made that choice for too long. One evening, I was sitting alone in my kitchen. It was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you hear your own thoughts a little too clearly. And I asked myself a question that changed everything. I said, what am I doing every single day that's slowly breaking me down? Now that's not an easy question to answer because it forces you to be honest with yourself. And the truth didn't come all at once. It came in pieces. The first thing I noticed was my plate. Now I grew up in the South and we cook with love. Big meals, rich flavors, food that brings people together. And there's nothing wrong with that. But somewhere along the way, I stopped paying attention to what my body actually needed. Too much salt, too much grease, too much of everything except balance. I wasn't feeding my body. I was overwhelming it. So I made a change. Not a big, fancy change. I didn't follow any trends or buy anything expensive. I just made things simpler. I started cooking beans again, the way we used to. I added more vegetables. I cut back on the salt, drank more water, and most importantly, I stayed consistent. Now let me tell you something. Consistency is where most people give up. Everybody wants a quick fix, something fast, something easy. But the truth is the small things you do every single day, those are the things that shape your life. So I made myself a simple rule. Every morning, I ate fruit. Didn't matter if I felt like it or not. Didn't matter if I was tired or not in the mood. I did it anyway, because discipline will carry you when motivation disappears. And there were plenty of days I didn't feel like doing it. But I had already spent too many years ignoring what my body needed. I wasn't about to keep doing that. Now here's something I didn't expect. It wasn't just my body that was worn down. It was my spirit too. I was alone more than I wanted to admit. You see, when you get older, people get busy. Families grow. Lives move on. And before you know it, the house gets quieter. Days get longer. And that silence, it does something to you. Loneliness isn't just a feeling. It's something your body carries. It affects how you sleep, how you think, how you feel about getting up in the morning. And I had been sitting in that loneliness for far too long. So I made another change. A small one, but a powerful one. I picked up the phone. I started calling people I hadn't spoken to in years. Old friends, family members, even neighbors I used to just wave at from a distance. Sometimes the conversations were short. Sometimes they were long. But every single one of them reminded me of something important. I wasn't alone. And slowly, something inside me started to shift. I began sitting outside more, feeling the air, watching the world move again. I started saying hello, starting small conversations, letting myself be part of life again instead of just watching it pass by. And little by little, things began to change. My steps felt lighter. My mornings felt clearer. I didn't feel as weighed down anymore, not in my body and not in my heart. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was coming back to myself. But the real turning point, the moment everything truly changed, was one night I will never forget. Pause, and I'll tell you about that. But you need to understand something first. Sometimes the biggest changes in your life come from the smallest decisions you finally choose to make. Now, let me tell you about that night. It didn't feel special at first. There were no warning signs, no big moment, nothing dramatic. It was just another night, like all the others. I got into bed, said my quiet prayer like I always do, and laid there, expecting the same routine. Waking up, tossing and turning, staring into the dark. But that night, something was different. I closed my eyes, and the next thing I remember was the morning light. Pause. I didn't wake up once. Not once. I just laid there for a moment, looking at the ceiling, trying to understand what had happened. Because when you've been struggling for so long, when your body has been restless for years, you don't trust peace right away. You question it. I sat up slowly, swung my legs over the side of the bed, and waited for that usual heaviness, that stiffness, that exhaustion. But it wasn't there. Pause. For the first time in years, I felt rested, truly rested. And I remember sitting there on the edge of that bed, whispering to myself, there it is. That's what I've been missing, that. It wasn't just sleep. It was relief. It was my body finally saying, thank you. Now listen to me carefully. That night didn't happen because of one big thing. It happened because of all the small things I had been doing day after day, even when I didn't feel like it. The simple meals, the fruit in the mornings, the water, the conversations, the choice to stop ignoring myself. That's what changed everything. And from that day on, things kept getting better. Not perfect, but better. And better is enough to build a life on. I started waking up with more energy. I could move around without feeling like I was carrying the weight of the world on my legs. My mind felt clearer. I laughed more. I even started enjoying the quiet again, instead of feeling trapped in it. Now I want you to understand something. At 102 years old, I'm not here because I did everything right. I made mistakes, plenty of them. I ignored my body when I shouldn't have. I stayed silent when I should have spoken up. I let habits run my life instead of questioning them. But I learned, and that's what matters, because it's never too late to turn things around. I don't care if you're 30, 50, 70. If you're listening to me right now, you still have time. Your body is always talking to you. Always. The problem is most people don't listen until the message gets louder. Pain gets louder. Fatigue gets louder. Discomfort gets louder. Until one day it can't be ignored anymore. But it doesn't have to get that far. You can start now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. Start small. That's the secret nobody wants to hear. Small doesn't feel exciting. It doesn't feel powerful. But small is what works. Drink a little more water. Eat something fresh in the morning. Move your body, even if it's just a few steps. Call someone. Step outside. Breathe. Those things might seem simple, but they're not small to your body. They're signals. Signals that you care. Signals that you're paying attention. And your body responds to that. Now, let me tell you something else I've learned in all these years. You cannot heal in isolation. You just can't. We are not meant to go through life alone. And I know sometimes it feels easier to stay quiet, to keep to yourself, to avoid reaching out. But that silence, it adds weight to your life, more than you realize. So if there's someone you've been meaning to call them. If there's someone you've been avoiding, maybe it's time to let that go. And if you feel like you have nobody, start small. A neighbor, a simple hello, a short conversation. Connection doesn't have to be big to be meaningful. Now, I'm not telling you this as a doctor. I'm not telling you this as some expert with a fancy title. I'm telling you this as someone who has lived long enough to see what works and what doesn't. And what works is paying attention. What works is consistency. What works is choosing yourself, even in the smallest ways. And what doesn't work is waiting for the right time, waiting to feel motivated, waiting until things get worse. Because by the time most people decide to change, they're already too deep into the struggle. Don't wait for that. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need everything figured out. You just need to begin. One small step, then another, then another. That's how change happens. Slowly, quietly, just like the damage did. But this time, it's working in your favor. Pause. Now here I am, 102 years old, still standing, still thinking clearly, still waking up with purpose. And I don't say that to impress you. I say that to remind you what's possible. Because if I can make changes at 92, if I can turn things around after years of doing it wrong, then you absolutely can too. So listen to me one last time. Your body is not your enemy. It's not working against you. It's trying to help you. Every ache, every restless night, every bit of fatigue. It's a message. And the sooner you listen, the better your life will become. Pause. My name is Martha Louise Carter. And if anything I've said today stayed with you, if it made you think even just a little, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone. Because you never know who needs to hear this. And before you go, I want you to do one thing for me. Just one. Think of one person. Someone you haven't spoken to in a while. Someone who might be feeling just a little bit alone. Pause. And when this ends, call them. That one small action might change more than you realize.